Okay, welcome to mine and Annessa's very brief, very rapid, buckle in presentation on person-shaped discovery, which was a third year mental health and nursing student module, the module for difference, which I think you'll see. Just to let you know who we are. So my name is Michelle Glascott. I'll move us out of the way so you can actually see. My name is Michelle Glascott. I'm a mental health nurse by background. I worked for 20 years in clinical practice, largely in forensics, namely personality disorder service. I come across the university about 4 years ago, but I'm heading back to clinical practice around Christmas time because I miss it. And this is my lovely colleague, very glamorous.
I am Annessa Rebair, and I've also been working in clinical practice for around 20 years and came over to academia about 7 years ago. Laterally, my post was in acute inpatient services.
Okay, so first of all, why did we need a new model? And for us, our own experience of clinical practice, from 20 years of clinical practice, but also what the students have been talking to about for the last few years was just how medicalised clinical practice had become. It was pretty medicalised when we were there, but it seemed more so, and they were getting dragged into this medical discourse. Very diagnosis orientated, even though most would know that DSM's a shambles. It was really medically focused. So as Annessa's going to tell you, we had to move on.
You did, and as the module was focused around recovery in mental health nursing, we kind of thought we'd really take the bull by the horns, or the crab there by its, I don't know why I picture the crabs there, we just thought it might be interesting.
Yeah, so, look cute, look funky.
Recovery and discovery is the focus of mental health nursing. So really much more about reflections on being human and what is it that constitutes a person. We wanted to go a little bit deeper than recovery and looking at discovering as well, because it isn't just about recovering, perhaps, the shipwreck, if you like, but discovering who we are or what might be different or what the potential or new hope might be through that process. And we really wanted to put that up there as a concept on a continuum rather than this idea of binary concepts within mental health that Michelle's just been referring to, this very much them and us, and kind of boundaries that might mitigate against advocacy and this idea of really kind of connecting with other human beings.
And the third reason was we really wanted to help our nurses avoid extinction, because that seemed to be where it was going. The whole health and social care agenda and systems changing with integrated care partnerships, third sector playing a much bigger role in the delivery of services. And we wanted our mental health student nurses to be somewhat future-proof, to appreciate what that's about. And to be able to go with it and to be able to deliver something that was much more future focused and future proofed. And then finally,
we obviously wanted for the nurses to reconnect with the why they wanted to be mental health nurses in the first instance. So we were reminded of their enthusiasm and excitement when they came onto the course in year one. By the time they got to year three, they were just perhaps a little bit jaded, excited but jaded. I think being in year three, concerned about what was to come, and obviously being tied up around what Michelle said right at the beginning around this kind of feeling that was becoming very medically orientated and very much about doing to rather than doing with people. So we wanted to really install that enthusiasm before they went back out into practice as qualified nurses.
How did we do it? Right from the offset, we did it in collaboration. We did it with our pals in the third sector, but also the educators by experience that we worked with. We enlisted a load of local agitators, really. We've got a local peer-run recovery college on our doorstep. We're very fortunate. A local peer-run art studio. We've got a drama school, which is a validated programme for people with lived experience, and we're third sector pals. So not only are these the people that we enlisted and got excited, and not only are they agitators, but they're actually brilliant at what they do as well. And there's vast quantities of both quantitative and qualitative evidence supporting the work that they do, and I wanted the students to see that as well, that evidence-based practice isn't just in a CBT format. Actually, there's a lot of evidence-based practice for clear work as well. Oh, and the other thing was, there was this bloke we met at a festival, which sounds a little bit odd, actually, but it was somebody who was doing a spoken word performance, and he talked so eloquently of human distress and disconnection and despair, but then how to overcome it, and how spoken word had helped him find a pathway out for his recovery. So we stole him. And of course, we did use the literature as well. Honest to God, we did. So what did we actually create? Well, it was a mixture of things, you know, and we've got a colour coordination there. So the ones that are in red were the ones that were delivered by the third sector partners, and the ones that were in green were delivered by our educators by experience. And I suppose just the point is, we often use the word expert by experience now, but our experts by experience hate that term. They feel like it's too much pressure. And I think Annessa was saying, one of the lads she was working with was saying, what the hell am I an expert in? Failed suicide attempts? No. And actually, we're educators. That's what we're here for. So the educators, and the reason they're there for is because of their lived experience. So, but all of the sessions were co-created with our third sector partners and my educators by experience. And obviously, it was a level 6 module. So we had to have a real level of criticality and theoretical underpinnings. So the students were teasing apart power, and not just the power of psychiatry, the power of nurses hold as well. What othering is, and again, but just what Annessa was saying about the binary, and there is no such thing as a binary, you know, where at different times in my life we're distressed, or we're healthier, or we're stronger, or we're distressed, you know, and it's about making sure that we're all aware that there isn't a binary of you're mentally ill and you're sane, you know, you don't get that stamp, and it just making sure that we all know that we occupy different parts of the continuum. What we also really pulled apart was we used a lot of the work from Recovery in the Bin, and I know that they were at the conference last year. I watched part of their show on YouTube, but you know, talking about how mental health services have actually bastardized their whole recovery model, and it's all about putting responsibility on the people rather than actually walking alongside. But alongside all of that, so we had some sessions in classrooms. We also had some sessions out in the community and with third sector organisations. So that's a little bit of what we did. Is there, Annessa, is anything you want to say about anything else?
Just how much fun we had coming up with all of these titles, and basically it was just wonderful, wasn't it? We're really quite excited about what the possibilities were in creating this module, and that was reflected when we met up with our friends, really, wasn't it? And they were really keen to get on board, so really good fun.
Yeah, scary but fun. Well, scary for people like me. So this is just a little bit of the visual of what the students did. So that top left's actually the drama class that they had. So where people have lived experience running a drama class in which they made the students do an actual performance on what recovery was to them. It was brilliant, and the students were terrified when they went in, but they all felt exhilarated by the end of it. And I think that was really important. The bottom left there, and I think you might see Annessa in the background, is they were spent a time in the art studio where they were creating clay models, which you can see on the right, of what their understanding of recovery is. And I don't know if you can see so well, but in the middle on the second row, there's a pack of cards. It's like 4 cards, and one of the young lads who was a student nurse who was with, he talked about how lonely he was as a child, and that he didn't mix. He found it really excruciating trying to make friends. But his dad had actually taught him some card tricks to help him mix with the other kids, and how once he'd started doing card tricks, he felt a little bit more confident to approach people in his classroom, and how that was actually his recovery journey. Some of the stories behind the clay models was just so beautiful, and they used that later on, which we're just going to tell you a little bit about now.
Yes, so the assessment process, obviously that was, we got really quite excited about this, and it was met with various cries of despair but excitement. So we wanted to produce a 20-minute presentation which the student had to convey through any kind of medium of their choice. It could have been something that they had experienced throughout the module. You can see the list there. But they had to convey their own personal understanding of what recovery and discovery was, and how they would overcome any barriers in relation to practicing that, to taking it actually into practice and working with people. You can see the marking criteria down there on the right hand side and how we brought that down. So the students were required to present, it was an audio visual recording, and show us what their choice of medium was. Link that with the literature and the evidence base around that choice, if you like, and weave into that what their personal understanding was. And obviously, as you can see there, the final component was to really give us some examples, really good examples of how they could take that into practice. The beauty of I mean, it was fantastic. You know, the degree and the depth of what students produced was fantastic. The icing on the cake really was that we assessed with an educator by experience as well. So that was a real privilege.
Yeah, absolutely it was. But it didn't go down well, did it? I mean, I think if you look at what the title of the assessment was, is convey through a medium of your choice. Well, as you can imagine, these were the responses we got when we first mentioned it to them.
So you can see just at the top there, some notes of initial despair, how it was all ridiculous, can't do it. They got through 3 years of their nursing degree and had not met anything like it. We were quite excited by this in a way, though. It was like, good, we're glad you're uncomfortable, you're going to learn, being pushed out of your kind of zone of comfort, really. So, you know, it was terrible, really. So I did delight in it a little bit, that people were uncomfortable with it. I remember being uncomfortable in many situations, and I still am, and the learning that you get from it is quite phenomenal. So there was that, but there was also some really positive comments that you can see there at the bottom as well, about, you know, this kind of module and assessment process meeting people's learning styles in different ways that they'd not had the opportunity to do before. There was something there as well, Michelle, I think you mentioned when we were speaking earlier, and reminded me that we wanted this feeling of discomfort to be real for the students in relation to assessments, as it reflected perhaps how people would be feeling when they were assessing people in the community or people in inpatient services, just to kind of remind them that this, what discomfort felt like around this idea of assessment, albeit a different context.
And exposure, and feeling exposed as well, because this assessment was very exposing, and it was okay for them to feel exactly like that parallel. I'll move our little picture out of the way so you can explain this, sorry.
Yeah, this is just an example from one of the students. She produced an art book. It was like a scrapbook of a story, and it was really quite beautiful. And she's describing here the moment when she sought help for her own trauma. And as you can see there, she's got a washing line pegged out with some clean washing, and she's referred it to airing her dirty laundry. She talks about airing her soul and how it was very cleansing and very refreshing. And that's just a very small part of a story, a beautifully illustrated story that we had the privilege to kind of hear. Really, it was really good. There were many different examples that unfortunately we haven't got time to share with you.
It's a shame, because they were beautiful. We had poetry, we had songs, it was everything. We had comic books. It was just outstanding, you know. And when we talked about the educator by experience and ourselves, we spent an awful lot of time crying as we marked this work, didn't we? Well, I did anyway. I was in bits.
I had a few tears.
What did so yes, it was scary. I was scared most of the way. I'll just move us up there out the way for you. I was scared most of the time through, actually, but you know, the good news was that the students absolutely loved it. Thank goodness, you know. So just some of the comments there, and I really like that one. It was really hard hitting for them, but it was just what they needed, and it was really powerful. The stories were powerful for them, and it made them feel uncomfortable, but it was good. It was good for them. And just so that we did a module evaluation outside of the university usual ones, because we really wanted to know whether it worked or not. And just to say that so I think there was 62 in the group, and there was 56 people provided feedback, which was quite canny. So 55 of the 56 absolutely loved it. Overall satisfaction is excellent or very good. There was one person who just couldn't stand it, though, couldn't tolerate it. I mean, the feedback's all about how it was an absolute shambles that she had to do something like this and then a third year module, and it was an absolute disgrace. I thought me and Annessa might end up over P45s at one point. And of course, that's exactly what I fixated on, is that one negative, but actually it was overwhelming, the positive feeling we got from the students. Interestingly, it was echoed as well by the external examiner. She talked about how she loved being part of that module. She felt like really involved in it as well, because I'd asked her for some advice early on whether we could get away with stuff. And she was really helpful and supportive. Interestingly, a couple of weeks later, she emailed us, asked us if I wanted to do a paper together with her on it and maybe do a bit of research on the impact on the students. But me being a bit rubbish, I bottled it and I pretended I didn't see the email. But maybe something for the future. So just to, thinking about what the module set out to achieve and whether or not we met it. The thing is, what we wanted was them to be in the third year before they go out and practice, to really tease apart what it is they're doing on an everyday, basis, to challenge some of the notions that are coming across in practice. But most importantly as well, to really start discovering who they are and what they bring in to the care arena. Not just, they're not just blank faces who provide these structured interventions. Who are they and how do they use themselves as the vehicle for change and growth and development in each other? We also, with the thing we're working in mental health, especially in the acute sector, because, services have been depleted so much that all's left is the very hard end, where you only see people when they're so unwell, is you forget that people have lives, they've got families, they go to work, they've got all of these skills and powers and abilities and talents, and you think you can forget that when you see people at their most unwell. So it was really important that the people who we had in as well, it turned everything on the head. So you had educators by experience who maybe they've actually come across in clinical practice, actually teaching them and turning everything, the power dynamic, on its head. So understanding that these folk have got superpowers. But on top of that, understanding that themselves, they've got superpowers. We talk a lot with the students about how impotent they feel or how ineffective. And actually, because they haven't done the CBT full training. And then during the course, they do CBT, they do a little bit of EMDR, they do a bit of DBT. But actually, this whole module was about bringing them back to what got them through. How did they recover? What did they use? So you use yoga. Well, let's have a look at that. Would you think about doing it? Mindfulness was important. Well, why wouldn't you use that? So it's about using what skills and strengths they've got. And I think Annessa will just reiterate the last few.
I think just because you know that I like to talk about this love thing. How we all, we all come back to one thing and we all share similarities, really, don't we? Different stories, but what we all strive for is just to fundamentally to belong and to be seen and to be connected and to love. And we wanted the students just to reconnect with that in themselves and understand that what they have experienced, what they carry and who they are, and energetically will absolutely help them in connecting with other people, and allow the other person to tell a story. So yeah, there's a lot of that in it too.
Yeah, it's all about the love, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah. So yeah, we felt like we met the objectives, and thankfully the students also agreed with that as well, and the external examiner. So just thank you for your time and patience listening. We'll whistle stop tour, and I'm sure we've gone on too much and we've probably talked over each other, so sorry about that.
And actually probably doubled our time, but hopefully you won't mind. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And now we've got to try and stop recording.